All right, we're here. So we all just watched the live stream of the Ford F-150 Lightning together. I had a little hiccup. You guys looked, we've kind of gone through the page a little bit. There's a lot there, but we thought we'd just stop right now and just be like, first impressions. Let's get them out there. Let's not talk for 2 hours and then record. Let's just record. What are the first impressions? Ford F-150 Lightning.
The first one for me is what's the saying? Mimicry is the sincerest form of flattery.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Rivian was the first one to come out with that horizontal DRL
Mm-hmm.
in a pickup truck like that. And, months later, Tesla did it in the Cybertruck. And now you have Ford doing it in their F-150
Mm-hmm.
Lightning.
Yep.
I think Rivian pulls it off more, and granted, yes, I'm biased, but I think just overall look on the front end, it just flows better to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I noticed right off the bat.
Yeah.
I'll give you my observation.
Mm-hmm.
After combing through the performance stats and knowing Rivian's performance stats, I actually think they are going after two different people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the F-150 is more for the person who's on a job site every single day. And I think the Rivian, if you think about the things that they tout, they're more performance oriented, right? Like 0 to 60, in 3 seconds, right? Being able to basically crawl 100% grade, right? Off road. Whereas the F-150, it's basically going to be a street truck that can go through construction sites. They could probably make it faster if they wanted to, but maybe that's their strategic way, right, of like not crushing their investment. But yeah, I think they're actually going after two different people.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I want to piggyback on that because that was one of my biggest impressions as well, is that Ford is really going more for kind of the mainstream, and where Rivian absolutely is going for performance, lifestyle, maybe even a little bit of luxury market. So I do feel like the F-150 Lightning is definitely more of a higher volume and let's call it, Main Street America type offering. The other thing that absolutely killed me, that was my first impression about this, was in the intro video, which it was before I was on with you guys, because I wasn't home yet. I was watching it in my truck. That the voice sounded like John Wayne. It was like F-150 Pilgrim,
I look at it and it looks like a Ford F-150. I know it's supposed to, but I guess with just such a new generation, I would have thought maybe they'll just kind of bring the design language forward a little bit. And they didn't. So kind of going back to Jimmy, I really definitely prefer Rivian's. I think Rivian has just done a nice job of bringing design language forward, but also it still looks like a truck or an SUV, unlike the Cybertruck. You know what I mean? But it just looks, it kind of brings that minimalism I think that Tesla has. So overall, that was my first impression. And then honestly, the next thing is I just thought that they did a good job, however, of just really showing the utility of the truck on the work site and at the home. We talked about this bidirectional charging and how they already have, even on the site, just the ability to power your home for 3 days, they said. And we kind of talked real quick after, and I kind of, gave a little ha ha ha, like, oh, I mean, they have a great feature that they're going to communicate, and just tell us about, like, off the get go. Like, that's amazing. But, I think that might take some time. Who knows how that rolls out and whatnot. But I think it's smart of them to share those really cool features that make life not only a lot more convenient, but even safer during a bad storm or something like that. So I like it, but I would agree with both of y'all else that said that clearly it looks like different markets, like where as the Ford might be just like, you know, a nice jacket like Under Armour or something that everyone would use. Like Rivian is clearly like Patagonia or something a little bit more lifestyle.
I do have one more, and okay. I think they did the right thing with the front trunk, with the frunk, because it opens up to a flat surface. So the Hummer EV did the same thing. We'll have to see what it's like to actually lift up over the front grille to get into the frunk of the Rivian, but I like the way that they did it to where it opens up and you have easy access there.
Skylar, I'm going to challenge that. Now, just for everyone here watching, I originally said I really liked the frunk on the Ford, right? But if you have a lot of stuff in there and you open it, what's the likelihood that after driving, it falls out as soon as you open it?
True story. I was coming out of a store the other day and I opened up the back of my Tahoe and 100 baseballs fell out all over the parking lot.
Exactly.
Totally valid, and that's exactly where I was going. I was going to say that I love that about the rear gate and the lift gate on the R1S, because it will prevent things from falling out. But once again, that's due to my driving style. If I was in the R1S and it opened up flat, the stuff would be everywhere when it opened. So,
right.
I'm trying to see, is there like a little net there, like maybe a little ledge?
Could be.
There might
actually
be.
that would be a cool solution, right? A net that goes across the front to keep stuff from falling out, but that you could remove and still have easy access. I was really hoping Rivian would have a front tailgate, but doesn't look like it's in the cards.
Again, like having now seen an R1T in person, sat in, touched, felt, I will say, and Jimmy, I think I mentioned this to you, the distance that like when you're standing in front of it and like reaching the truck is actually much higher than I thought it would be. It's almost like working at a stand-up desk, you know, and I've heard rumblings of like actual platforms being something you can sit inside the frunk and actually have like a mobile desk. You know, so, you know, for me, putting things in and out of there seemed like it would be almost natural. It would almost feel natural just because of where it was in proximity to like where your arms are and, you know, what have you. So I would actually say, other than additional space, which I'll bet you would get with the Ford here, you know, it's probably more from a cubic foot perspective, perhaps. I would say I prefer Rivian style frunk right now. Just because, again, if I have a trunk that's smaller in nature and I'm trying to put more stuff in there than it really should hold, right, then I know stuff's going to be falling out. But you're right, a net would probably fix that.
Here we go. This might.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Man. That doesn't look like. No, that looks more like a sill, like you have on a tailgate. I don't think that's a lip. Maybe a little bit. That extension cord looks a little.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Could be.
But zoom back out. Here's what I like. Gotcha. The Mega Power Frunk. Hey, it's cheesy, but that leaves an impression, right? Mega Power Frunk.
That is right.
It's 100 years of marketing there, Skylar.
Well, you know what? Now I want one. If my frunk is not Mega Power, I don't know if I want it.
Hint, Rivian, rename your front.
This might, I should, how'd I get, okay, there's this guy. And then if I zoom in, See this little handle here? That's for like a little false floor there, maybe.
Ooh,
That'd be
probably.
interesting. Good catch.
And
Kyler, you're
and
And
observant.
there's tie down.
Jeez.
Tie downs here, tie downs up here,
Yep.
or like hooks up here. But
I'll tell you, that frunk looks huge.
yeah.
can put some junk in that front.
Really?
Sure can. Oh,
Jimmy, you're being real quiet, man. What are you thinking right
I
now?
am. I'm looking at it, looking at all of it. You know, looking at the website. And I'm probably jumping way ahead here. You know, a lot of this truck is options.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you're starting at 39. Everything that we've looked at so far, even just flipping through the few tabs that you flipped through, Kyle. You know, like the 9.6 kilowatt. You know, it's an option for all of that stuff. So, I mean, you can get this bad boy. That price will add up very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It'd be interesting to see what a $70,000 F-150 looks like next to, an R1T.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and even what it looks like next to a $70,000 Ford F-150 ice truck today. That's what I'm curious about. The other thing about the 39K starting price that screams at me is they want to out of the gate have a competitive starting price with the Cybertruck.
That's a good point. Yep, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and the reality of that is it's actually a more attractive starting price than the Cybertruck because they are eligible for the federal tax credit.
You made a point earlier in regards to that information, like maybe now with some of this, I mean, did you predict that maybe we get more information? You want to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this forces Rivian to start being or increase their pace, in terms of communication with their customer base. Because I mean, you saw that number went up to 100,000 people watching. I mean, I wonder how many total pre-orders Rivian has. I bet I don't think it's 100,000. I mean, maybe it is, but yeah, it's not. So I mean, think about what that can do. I mean, how many of those people were are R1T holders, right? Sitting here not getting communication from someone, and here's Ford, which is a trusted name, which to me, you need to be over communicative with your base if you want to try and build trust. And waiting to like the last minute like this, I think Ford really puts Rivian in a tough spot. Like if they're not ready to communicate what they need to communicate, I think this puts a lot of pressure on them. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what comes out over the next, 4 or 5 days.
Right. And the other thing that's kind of interesting is Ford F-150s are a known entity other than what is the electric specific features and functionality. And I don't think they left anything on the table. I don't think they left people wondering anything. And they're obviously much further out from production than Rivian is. I mean, first customer deliveries are supposed to be next month.
But let me ask you guys. So if we were to say specifically what we don't know, because, again, I actually hope this puts a little pressure on Rivian, but at the same point, I was reading a chart. I think it was either on Reddit or one of the two, either Rivian forums or Rivian owner forums, but somebody had posted a graph pretty much comparing, all EVs in similar spaces with one another. And one of the comments that stuck out to me was, we actually know more about Rivian than we think we do, right? So I'm trying to think here, like, how much stuff is actually here that we don't know about Rivian? I mean, we know the horsepower, we know the torque, we know the towing capacity. We don't know things like, can you use your phone as a key? Do we have things like intelligent range? And I think a lot of these things are like software driven. We know our estimated mileage based on what they've given us. We don't know what the battery's output capacity is, which that was interesting. 9.6 kilowatts here at peak, and 2.4 kilowatts, on a job site. Like, things like that are interesting. But I think we do know more about Rivian than we, I guess, give them credit for. We know we have 4 motors, versus, this looks to only have 2. This only looks to have a peak 300-mile range. We know already that Rivian's coming out with a 400-mile range, a 400-plus mile range, right? So what do you guys see here that we don't know about Rivian yet?
Vehicle to home, the ability to use your Rivian as a battery backup.
Yeah. So Ford comes right out of the gates and says, use this to back up power to your home, 9.6 kilowatts, which is significant. In fact, their hybrid trucks.
That's Tesla Powerwall speed. Yeah.
Yeah, their hybrid trucks during the freeze here in Texas, those were only 7.2, but that can still run, at least critical circuits within a home. And that's still a question mark with Rivian. We know that they have bi-directional capability, but they haven't talked to us about what they can do today, or even what they aspire to do, which I think is a miss on their part. I mean, talk about what you're absolutely engineering for and what you're going to be able to do, and potentially even say, hey, look, this isn't finalized, but this is what we aspire to do. This is what we'd like to be able to do. I think as long as you're honest about, whether it's something that you are delivering, or maybe stretch goals to deliver. As long as you have honest communication with the customer base, you should be in good shape.
It'd be interesting if they communicate pre-orders that came through. I mean, we know they got one. Skylar got his done within like 30 seconds. And then he got it done. He was like, I wonder if that was refundable. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But so Skylar, you went through. I mean, I didn't see your screen there, but it was what'd you see there when you pre-ordered?
So number one, it's $100, which, by the way, if they try to hype these pre-order numbers, it's $100. Like, don't hype $100 pre-orders.
Yep.
But with that being said, I wanted to see the process, and I also, I want to option one out once I have the opportunity. But obviously, a key part of this was selecting a dealer, and it did say very clearly that your dealer will contact you shortly to finalize your order. So, once again, you're still going to have to deal with the dealer, and just by nature of different dealerships, different people, different individuals, that's going to lead to a different customer experience for everybody. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I would lean towards a consistent and positive customer experience being the best thing for customers. But hey,
it's a great
some people might feel different.
I think that's a great point. I'll piggyback on that a little bit, just very quickly, because I was actually in Normal last week, and got to meet up with some Rivian folks, and one person said very eloquently, so I'll just kind of summarize it very quickly, but he said, if I hear one more, electric car or truck that can go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, who cares? He was just kind of like so exhausted by that, because he actually said, in 10 years, the Honda Civic's going to go 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, so it's got to be about so much more. It's got to be about the entire experience. I do think that, we see Rivian's experience of buying a car and owning a car is still drastically different than the specs that we're comparing and the frunk, the mega frunk, and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, I think you make a really great point there, right? It's it's the experience. The only thing is that's still to be tested, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what we're all saying next year at this point in time.
At least the bar is set so low with dealerships.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was literally just about to say that. It's one of those things where I think we all know from previous dealership experiences how bad it can be. But I think this is going to be one of those things where Rivian is going to, not only do they have to knock it out of the park, I think they will. I mean, this type of experience that we're going to get, if they don't get it right for the launch edition, us launch edition holders, then it's going to be tough. But there's no doubt in my mind, at least once we start getting contacted, that this experience is going to be freaking awesome. I did notice, going back to the truck, it actually, each truck, or the trucks that have the extended range battery, comes standard with an 80 amp charger.
Yeah.
An 80 amp EVSE that allows peak charging at 19.2 kilowatts.
I saw that. Where did I see
by
it?
the back? We've got charging covered.
There it is.
Right there. Yeah, and then it also comes with a 32 amp Ford mobile charger.
And did you guys see the piece with the 3 trims?
Yes, at the very bottom.
Yeah, you have the XLT, Lariat, and Platinum.
Yeah. But I go back, man, like, I know the starting price it's a great starting price. I mean, you can't beat $39,000 for a truck like this, but for the fact that, like, the 15.5-inch center display is an option. There's going to be a lot of things that just do not come standard on the F-150 that we will get standard on every trim level of the Rivian.
To try and land this one, or put a little bit of bow tie on just F-150 versus Rivian comparisons, does anyone have any kind of final thoughts that they want to get out there on the table? We don't have to rehash anything, but anything else at all?
So, I mean, I'll give kind of a final Rivian versus F-150 Lightning, and I think the low starting price could absolutely sway some buyers away from Rivian because not everybody is looking for that lifestyle adventure performance vehicle. Some people pre-ordered a Rivian because they were looking for an all-electric truck. And so there is a percentage that I do expect Rivian to lose. However, I feel like the majority of the community is enticed by the performance, the luxury, if you will. And I do feel like that is a market that has staying power for Rivian. So I don't really see this as a long-term threat. I see it more as kind of potentially shorter-term attrition from the Rivian community.
One thing that RJ has said in the past, as far as like, Tesla or Rivian, is like, consumers want a choice. They have a lot of different tastes. Like, we need hundreds of these, It's like, I mean, if there was only 2 and then someone else came along, like, everyone would go to that third one because they want something different. I mean, so many people choose their vehicle just, want something a little bit different than everyone else has. So there's just plenty of room. And so I'm ultimately like glad that Ford's to this point. And I think they'll have a good obviously have a great market segment just based on the most popular selling truck in the nation. So There we
And
go.
and another important point that they did make during the presentation is that this is the highest performance Ford truck ever made.
Ever made, yeah.
And although we are saying in comparison to a Rivian, the performance doesn't compare, but this is still a pretty badass performing truck, even though it's not up to what we want and what we're expecting.
Absolutely. I don't want to keep this going, but out of the 100,000 people that were viewing live, and out of the 10 million people that are going to see it tomorrow on headlines, how many of those people have never heard of Rivian? A lot. And they're just like, wow, compared to my Ford F-150, this thing is awesome. And to your point, to the Texas House of Representatives, Skylar, so many people are going to be attracted to this because of the performance, not because of the environment or anything like that. It's just pure performance. This is cool. I can get behind this. And yeah.
So again, Kyle, I don't want to drag it out, right? But the interesting thing will be how dealers respond to this vehicle, because over the last 8 years, since EVs have been, like, I don't want to say mainstream, but available, right? Dealer adoption to EVs has been very low. Like, they'll sell one EV for probably 50 or 60 cars, of ICE cars. Like, they're not incentivized to sell these. And it was interesting because Chris Farley, mentioned it, on the video. He's like, EVs require less maintenance, less headaches, everything. And that's not what dealers want. Dealers don't want to sell vehicles with less maintenance.
Jeff, I'll tell you though, man, I think the dealership guys are going to embrace this, at least the sales team, because they're going to enjoy driving it, and they're going to stop making fun of EVs just like I did. I mean, I used to make fun of EVs, but those guys are going to stop making fun of EVs too, and they're going to sell them. They're going to want to take customers for rides in them. Like, you will never believe this truck. That will happen. Because it's not just a token compliance vehicle anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, this is we live in an awesome time where if you're at the spot in your life as the viewers and you can't afford a Rivian, man, to be able to get an electric truck that, I mean, it's a good looking truck. I'm not going to knock it at all. But to be able to get into a truck for $35,000 if you add a couple options after the federal tax credit, now is a great time to get in it and get that thing reserved.
Thanks for watching. If you get a chance, please check us out at rivianstories.com. And every like, subscribe, and share helps. Thanks again.